Okay, so far we've created the leg, the torso, and the arms. And now we're going to go ahead and create the face. So I'm going to go ahead and select the geometry and Control H, which is to hide. And again, we need to talk a little bit about topology. We really need to make sure that we follow the topology of the eye and the mouth. And it's a really fun way of doing this. So let's go ahead and create a plane. And we're going to go ahead and just make sure that it's at 1. Going to revolve this, rotate it 90 degrees. It's going to be about halfway of the head. Like so. And then I'm going to go to the side of the face, which I can't see, and then revolve it again, like so. Grab that edge and just kind of push it back so we can see the how it's going to affect our character. Edit mesh, interactive edge loop tool, put one right in the center. We're going to grab this face and we're going to extrude, edit mesh, extrude, collapse, delete. And this is basically where our eye is going to be, so go ahead and grab those vertices or whatever you want and start shaping it around the face. We might need to bring this down a little bit too. So I'm going to bring this down. Bring this over here, along here, and then over here. And of course we want to do the same thing to the other side, the front of the face, so we're going to do that as well. Here and over here. Okay. Next we're going to grab the other one and do a similar move. We're going to extrude, press G, collapse it, and this time we're going to delete that center one and the left one. This is going to be our mouth. Again, go to the front. Whoops, things got moved, that's okay. Okay, so far so good. At this point in the tutorial, you're going to see that I'm going to accelerate it twice as fast because this is going to take a little bit of a process. And literally the only thing you're going to be doing is adding edge loops and then tweaking the vertices. So as you can see, we added 2 edges around the eyes and then 2 edges around the, or 2 edge loops around the eyes and 2 edge loops around the mouth. And we're going to tweak it so that it actually wraps around the eyes on the side view, and then we're going to move it to the front view so that we could actually tweak that as well. So all of this is part of the process of creating great topology for the face. So for example, notice that every time we create edges, it wraps around the mouth and then it wraps around the eye, just like we're supposed to have for proper topology. Now again, the process is that you're going to be adding some edge loops around the eyes and then tweak it. And here we're making it semi-transparent so that I can actually see the character's face. That face right there on the center of the nose, that's supposed to wrap around the nose. And then we're also making sure that all of the edges and geometry follows our reference picture. So again, you guys are more than welcome to slow down, pause the video so that you can see where each vertex is placed. Here we're actually creating the bridge of the nose. We are going to work on the nose in a little bit, but right now we're just trying to get the eye topology to actually follow the reference picture. So remember, what we're working on right now is actually just the front of the face. As we progress through the tutorial, we're actually going to be creating the skull and as well as splays for the ear and of course the nose. So this is actually a really fun part when we start creating the eye. We are now creating an edge loop that's going to create the eyebrow. So it's really important to follow your reference and also look at anatomy to make sure that we're getting this right. Now we're taking a look at it in, of course, in 3D space, because we want to make sure it actually is looking like a mask or a face versus just having a completely guessing versus in front view and side view. So it's very important to always look into perspective window to see how your character is starting to look like, or how the face is actually starting to look like so far. Here I'm actually pushing the eyes a little bit closer because our eyes are actually a little bit crescent, but not so, but in this case it actually looks really flat. So I want to make sure that it's actually having a crescent look according to side view. So this is a fun part. We're actually going to go ahead and extrude the nose. We're going to start creating it. So we just grabbed that face and extruded it, and now we're going to tweak it to look a little bit more like the actual nose. Here we are extruding so we can get the nostril, and then we extrude inward so that we can get the actual nose. Easy as pie, and then delete that face on this side because we don't need it. There, it's looking smooth. Okay, here's an interesting way to kind of get proper topology when we're going to create our nose. You're going to delete the edge on the forehead. We're going to use the split polygon tool to create an edge that goes from the eye all the way up to the forehead. Then we're going to go across. So that still gives us 4 polygons, or 4 edges to create a polygon. We're going to delete that one edge around the nose, and then go ahead and go down towards the nostril. And if you watch, you actually are creating proper topology. We are having 4 edges on each polygon. Now we've actually brought that edge all the way down to the top of the lip so that you can create that crease that we all have. Anybody know the name of that crease? I have no idea, and I should probably look it up. All right, so now you can see that we have a nice smooth edge across the forehead down to the nose, and now I've added another edge loop so we can start tweaking the a little bit more of the mouth and of course the nose. So again, it's just about tweaking the vertices, trying to find the right place for them so that the edge flow is smooth. You do try to create as much of a square as possible. We're starting off very low right now, and then we're going to start increasing our geometry. But it's a really good way to start the process. So you start low poly, and then you start increasing your topology as you start getting more and more detail. And eventually you place this character in ZBrush so you can really add some wrinkles and details and everything. So now we're going to start sculpting the chin a little bit more. And now we're starting to create the jawline. So we're going to go ahead and grab the edges at the bottom of the jaw and then extrude outward. We're also going to connect that jaw point, which is basically where the ear is going to be. And of course, you're going to tweak, 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 trying to get the right topology. Whoops, I'm going to select the top edges, and now I'm going to be starting to create the skull. I'm going to extrude and then just kind of follow my reference picture. And I'm just going to extrude a couple of times. So again, I just rotated the whole edge and then moved it down. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and complete the skull. We're going to be extruding. So select those edges, extrude and scale and rotate. Very similar to the body, the torso, the legs. You're basically just extruding and bringing down. You are going to leave a little bit of a hole for the ear. The ear on its own is actually very complicated to build, but at least leave it a little bit of room so you can actually create space for the ear. As well as start creating the neck. So select that bottom edge and then extrude downward. So you can start building the neck, and then of course you're going to, I'm always tweaking the model because I'm always seeing where it can be a little bit better, where it can be a little bit more optimized. I went ahead and extruded again, and this time I attached the polygon that was going for the neck all the way to the skull. And now I grab some edges at the bottom of the chin and extrude it downward so I can start developing the neck. Here I am just going ahead and placing it, and of course you're going to merge those vertices using the fancy merge tool. The fancy merge vertex tool. And this is a little bit of a mistake that I made. This is the first time that I'm actually looking at my model in the front view, and I have yet to look in perspective view. So double check to make sure. Here we go, perspective view at last. You can see that by following the topology of the reference, you're doing a pretty good job. Of course, there is a giant hole in the back of the head where we need to go ahead and extrude, so I'm going to go ahead and fix it. This is going to be the back of the neck, and as well as attach it to the skull. So again, I'm going to be kind of flipping around, extruding and actually shrinking certain areas. The biggest part though is I'm sure you're starting to see some resemblance here, but it's basically extruding to get the shape and then actually tweaking the vertices so that you can actually get a nice looking model. Now I'm starting to tweak the neck a little bit more. I added an edge along the neck so that it can actually look like a neck. And you can see that I've made it semi-transparent so that I can actually see where my reference image is. So the purpose of this tutorial is to basically give you the idea of how to create a character. I'm adding extra edges so I can of course give it a little bit of a forehead and a little bit more organic curves to the face. Need to finish that back of the head. It looks a little weird with a hole. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude and then go ahead and merge the vertices so that it is attached. And now I have a face, an actual face of a character. Pretty neat. So now that it's ready, let's go ahead and create the mouth. We're going to select the edges that are supposed to create the mouth. You might have to deselect some edges so you can actually get the shape of the mouth. And then we're just going to extrude inward so that we can start creating the lips. Usually just extrude a little bit to get that nice little edge around the mouth, and then extrude to get the actual lip itself. And then start bringing that in a little bit with another extrude. And then finally you're going to extrude all the way in so you can get the inside of the mouth. A lot of people have a tendency to kind of just leave it as is and then maybe add some teeth. You really need to add extra geometry inside the mouth so there's something to look at when the character opens their mouth. So for example, your character is actually saying maybe screaming or something, or actually saying hi, and their mouth is open, and then you see that there's like weird mesh in the back, or you see some stretched out geometry, or you just see something that you shouldn't see. So the way to trick this is by actually creating what I call a sock. You basically create the inside of the mouth and then almost like a throat, so that when the character opens their mouth, there is something to see. Now, you don't have to go crazy with the UVs unless you're actually going to see lots of details inside. But in general, it's okay to just kind of put a dark texture inside. And we'll talk about texturing more in another lesson. So this is the sock that I was telling you about. It's just basically an opening inside the mouth. And then I'm going to extrude downward so that there's a little bit of a pipe. And then there you go. That's basically the inside of the mouth. And then you place the teeth and the tongue in there as well. The ear is actually this one's going to be a very simple ear. To be honest, what I usually do is I actually modeled an ear many years ago, and I used that ear for everything. I spent a lot of quality time on that ear trying to shape it, and to be honest, I spent so much time on it that I actually don't have much patience in creating another ear. So I use that one, then I tweak it and model it and make it thicker or thinner depending on what it is. What I'm doing right now, though, is just a placeholder. It's just going to be there because the character looks weird without an ear. But I'll show you later as when I attach the ear, you can see where I'm going to create the actual, how my ear looks like. So I would actually spend some time and creating an ear. And similar to an eye, I create an eye and an ear, and then I use it for everything. So again, this is a very, very simple ear. But it's just a placeholder for now until I actually attach the ear itself. And by the way, if you're going to have bad mesh, make sure you put it behind the ear. Or bad geometry, if you're going to put a seam for textures, make sure you put it behind the ear. It's a good place to hide things. You don't really get to see the back of the ear very often in characters. So perfect place to squeeze in some bad geometry or some bad textures. Now I'm going to create an eyeball. And the reason why is I'm going to start working on the eye. And to be honest, our eye is kind of hard to shape unless you actually have an eyeball in it. So you're going to see that I'm actually struggling to place this eye because the shape of the eye that I made doesn't fit an actual sphere. So this is a really good purpose for actually maybe creating an eyeball before you start modeling. But in this scenario, I went ahead, and the nice thing about geometry is you can always fix it. So I'm placing the eye, and then I'm going to fix the geometry. You're also going to see quickly that I created a Fong and added a ramp shader. So now I'm creating a iris and a pupil, so when I model, at least the character looks more real. So this is helpful for me as I model, so that the character's starting to look a little bit more realistic. Right now it looks like a zombie and it's very scary, but later it's going to look great. Actually, this is a very simple eyeball. I will later in another tutorial show you guys how to create a realistic eye. I placed the eyeball in a reference layer, and then I made it transparent so that I can actually start tweaking it. And now I changed it into a reference layer so I can actually tweak it. You're going to see me go back and forth. All right, so now I can actually start shaping the geometry so that it makes more sense with the eye. So again, this is through perspective. You can use front view, side view, whatever works for you. But right now I'm just trying to tweak the eye so that the eyelid, so they actually wrap around a spherical eyeball. There you go, it's already looking better. So some of this is going to be, you know, it's just about moving the vertices closer so they actually wrap around the eyeball. And very similar to the mouth, you want to make sure there's actually something to see inside the eye. So to kind of create an eyelid, I extruded once inward and then extrude it all the way in so that it actually will have some sort of geometry to block it. So if you accidentally get really close to the character and actually get to see inside the mesh, the last thing I want people to see is a gaping skull inside the head, and that's just really creepy. So instead they get to see mesh. All right guys, so now that we have the basics, the rest of the video is watching me tweak the eye, but I think you guys have a general idea of how this works. So what I'm going to do next is just go ahead and pause the tutorial, and I'm going to tweak this off camera. And then when I get back, we're going to actually start merging the body together. I'm already going to merge the neck to the body, which you guys already know how to do. Hopefully you guys learned it from the leg and the arm. So you guys, I'm sure, can figure it out. But what I'm going to do next is the next tutorial is going to be to actually mirror the geometry to the other side so that I can complete the character. All right, guys, I will see you in a little bit.